Don't create a new habit, add it to something, integrate it into something you're already doing. Make it easy for yourself, because I can promise you that if you take 5 grams a day, even 10 grams a day, after a month, 6 weeks, you will feel the difference.
All right, so here we go.
We are about to launch.
What's up, everybody? Truth Not Trends. That's right. We are here live back in the studio. I am back, Oakland, California. This is the podcast where we help you maximize your strength as safely and efficiently as possible. My name is Liam Bauer. I've been a strength coach for 37 years.
37?
And counting. Today, I had the pleasure of having the incredible Steve Jennings. Steve is known on Instagram as the Creatine OG, and he was literally the very first person to bring creatine to market as a supplement in 1993. His product was the very first creatine product on the market over in the UK called Ergomax. He has a serial entrepreneur, using his own words, fascinating conversation all over the place. So look forward to that. Before we get to that, though, don't forget that at TNT Strength, we recommend a high protein, whole food diet. And we recommend that you take creatine monohydrate every single day. I do. This is actually part 2 in my creatine series. With last week, we had a great conversation with Dr. Darren Kandow. And this week, the Creatine OG himself, Steve Jennings. So creatine is my new passion. The research is amazing. You're going to find out a lot about it. Now, if you're thinking about building a home gym, I highly recommend you use the Anatogym system. Anatogym makes smart gym platforms that are programmable and allow you to create a workout that can do anything that barbells and dumbbells can do, but take up less space, and it's incredibly functional. Push of a button, and you can even program it and control everything through an app on your phone that is totally free. If you're interested in finding out more about Anatogym, go to the Anatogym website. And if you want to purchase something, use the code TAKU at checkout to get 20% off. All right. And without further ado, please enjoy this episode of Truth Not Trends with Steve Jennings, the Creatine OG.
Boom, baby.
Steve, really happy you could take some time out of your day to join me. And where are you coming to me from?
I'm in Antwerp in Belgium right now.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, far away from you. You're over on the West Coast, aren't you?
Yeah. We're in officially we're in Oakland, California, but you know what's often referred to as the San Francisco Bay Area, right?
Yeah, I know that part of the world quite well. So.
Yeah, nobody knows anything except for San Francisco. So, but there's other cities here as well. Yeah, awesome. Well, that's one of the miracles of modern technology, man. It's amazing. We have guests from all over. You know, Ireland, Australia. You know, the only challenge is getting the times to work. But
yeah,
I'm appreciating you making that happen.
No, I'm excited about this, and I saw that Darren was your last guest, which was fantastic.
Yeah, so I mentioned to him that I had contacted you, and he was like, had nothing but great things to say. So I've been kind of like on this tear with the creatine stuff. I've been using it myself and recommending it for quite a long time, probably almost as long as you've been involved. But I think I probably got wind of it not long after you guys brought your stuff to market way back when.
Wow.
Because I started all the way back in like 1993, I think, using creatine.
Yeah, that was the year after we made the breakthrough and the first commercial product came to market. So
yeah. So it's amazing. But I mean, now the research just keeps pouring out about the benefits. Let's start with just a quick, give everybody in my audience a background, who you are and stuff. And then I'll start firing questions, and I'm sure you're going to be great with all of them.
Yeah. So, I'm Steve. Steve Jennings. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I guess I ended up kind of finding myself in this world of entrepreneurship because I'm unemployable, basically. So you've got to find another route to go down with your life.
I love it.
Sport has been a big part of my life from being really very small, in grew up in England, so football, rugby, cricket, big sports. I loved playing football, or soccer as you call it in the US. Became a very avid runner, cross country in particular, 800 and 1500 on the track and cross country in the winter. And then I fell in love with the bicycle, and eventually I became a professional racing cyclist, which was my dream. I had two things that I wanted to do in life. I either wanted to become a professional racing cyclist, or I wanted to be like Jimmy Page playing at Madison Square Garden, but that never really worked out because I've got no ear for music whatsoever. So
both are seems like worthy and challenging pursuits.
Yeah, well, certainly, I probably ended up taking up one of the hardest, toughest endurance sports in the world.
Sure.
It's hard to comprehend what it's like training for six hours a day on the bike, on the road, year round, rain, sleet, snow. It really, for me, it set the foundation for entrepreneurship, grit, determination, bouncing back, going out training for 6 hours when you don't feel like it. I mean, you just transfer all of this into the context of business, and it's like, wow, building companies, it feels actually quite easy compared to riding a 250-mile bike race.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny that you say that. I as a coach, as a strength coach, one of my sort of taglines with my athletes used to be, like, we train hard and we win easy, right? And that we want the workouts to feel harder than when they're doing whatever it is they have to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of my most sort of well-known stories in my circle was I was training a guy for the judo national championships in the United States, and we were prepping him for his final stuff before he was going to go to the tournament. And I had this workout created that he was blasting through this circuit that was really brutal. And in the middle of it, he just put the bar down, threw up in the trash can, picked the bar back up, and just kept on going like that. Like he just finished the whole workout. And I was like, oh my God, you're unstoppable. Like any normal person, that would have been it.
Yeah.
But he only hesitated long enough to evacuate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's
needless to say, he won the whole thing. He won the tournament. So yeah, he did amazing.
Unless you've experienced sport, whether it's college sport or what people love to do on a weekend, or even having the opportunity to perform as an elite or professional. Anybody that's never done it, it's hard for them to understand what you're doing that they never see.
Yeah.
All they see is you in the newspaper, or they see you ride a race, but it's the sometimes years of preparation and training and late nights and crazy early mornings and year round. It's just like, it really does take a special breed of person to choose to do something like that.
Yeah, I remember Usain Bolt, when he was competing, said, I trained 4 years to run 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's very, very true.
Yeah.
So professional cycling took up a nice part of my life, and then I went into investment broking during the 80s, and then in the early 90s, I reacquainted myself with the bike a little bit, getting my health back. And at this point, I was still fairly young. I was still, only in my 30s, and I founded a nutrition company in the UK, out of the UK, called Maxim, Maxim. And this nutrition company really was the first in Europe that took what had been nutrition for bodybuilders and transitioned it into something that could be for a more weekend warrior kind of end of the market, moving it out of the gym and more into endurance sport, triathlon, running, swimming, hiking, sports like that. And we successfully executed that whole plan over almost a decade, and the company was acquired. But 6 months after we'd founded this company called Maxim, I had a telephone call that changed the trajectory of my life. This telephone call was from a doctor called Dr. Roger Harris. And Dr. Roger Harris, together with two Swedish scientists, were the three people. Was Dr. Roger Harris, Professor Eric Hultman, and Dr. Karin Zonderland. And they did the research and then published the breakthrough paper, which categorically showed that there was a 1 to 3% performance improvement when you supplement with creatine. At that moment in time, it was really the only science was really looking at sprint, fast bursts, anaerobic exercise.
Right.
And I received this telephone call out of the blue one day late in March. And, this person called me up and he asked if it was, am I speaking to Steve? And I said, yes, you are. This was 4 days after my daughter had been born, by the way. So I shouldn't have even been in the office, but I was, because I guess I was meant to take this call. And Roger introduced himself. I did not know who he was. This was pre-internet. I didn't know what he looked like. I knew nothing about him. And he knew that my new nutrition company had already got an agreement with the British Olympic Association to provide them with products for the Barcelona Olympics. And Roger asked me to meet him 4 or 5 days later at a hotel in the north of England. And it was like a scene from a movie. I drove up there, still not knowing if this was real or it was my brother with a prank call or what is going on. And I remember asking him, how will I know who you are? I don't know what you look like. And he said, and Eric Hultman was with him. So the two main professors for this study were up at this hotel. And they both had a red flower in their buttonhole. It was like a scene from a movie.
Yeah, like a spy novel.
Yeah. And I walked into this hotel, found them in the lounge, and we just had this remarkable conversation. And they gave me 2 things. They told me what research they had. They revealed everything to me. They gave me, the paper wasn't published until September of 92. I met them in March. They gave me a pre-peer reviewed version of the paper, which they handed to me. And they said, it's all in here, everything you need to know. They walked me through it in language that I could understand. And then the thing that really you would never do today, they produced a polythene bag, a plastic bag, with 1 kilo of white powder in it. And they put it on the table. And I just remember thinking, I hope nobody's looking. You couldn't do this nowadays. It was too risky,
Yeah.
And they said, that's 1 kilo of creatine. It's the only kilo of creatine at the moment that exists in the world.
Oh my God. Right? That's crazy.
Yeah. The company that were producing 1 kilo at a time.
Wow.
Small chemical company in Austria, 1 kilo. And then we got.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine.
It is, because now it's tens of thousands of tons of creatine.
Yeah.
So this story, basically, they gave me the powder, they gave me the paper, and they gave me a mission. We know that you know Olympic athletes, and we want you to get this into the hands of some Olympic athletes, because we believe it's going to be the difference between gold and third, or gold and fourth, or gold and silver. So I basically said to them, okay, I'm going to take on this challenge. Got in the car, drove home. There was in my mind, I never questioned what I'd done at that point. There was no, can it be done or can't it be done? They'd handed me a mission. I'd accepted the mission, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. My cousin, who is a very well-known strength and conditioning coach called Steve Jennings, he's one of the best in the world, former athlete, Commonwealth Games, which is like the Pan American Games, gold medalist in the shot. He is one of the world's leading strength and conditioning coaches with power sports like rugby and American football. He's incredible. He basically said, "Look, I'll go and talk to the athletes, Steve. Just leave it with me." So he spoke to Linford Christie, Sally Gunnell, Mark McCoy, the Canadian. It was a whole bunch of them that he got the product to. We got it to a cyclist and some rowers. And within 45 days, we had a product called Ergomax. And when we launched this first product for the athletes, it wasn't even a powder. We did it in effervescing tablets. So even the technology and the approach we were using was actually more advanced than where the creatine market is today.
Absolutely. Because I remember when it transitioned over here from the original just powder and someone else. I don't know if you remember the name Dan Duchesne. He was.
Yes, I know all these people. And Anthony Almada from EAS. Yeah, Bill Phillips.
Dan Duchesne was the first one I remember recommending that you try to take it in an effervescent form. And he was literally just saying, take it with like Alka-Seltzer or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it would like buffer your stomach acid at the same time. Yeah.
Yes. So we developed this product together with a pharmaceutical company who were local to where I lived. And in 45 days, we went from a bag of powder to having a product in blister strips in a box called Ergomax C150. And the athletes were using it. The coaches were contacting us and letting us know how things were going. Everything was good. Roger Harris and Eric were just fascinated by these conversations they were having with the coaches. And the rest is really history. The story, we won gold medals in Barcelona, several of them. The story broke in the mainstream media during the Olympic Games. And from that moment on, creatine was not an unknown compound or molecule anymore. It literally went from didn't exist as a supplement. So if you go back to when Roger called me, it didn't exist as a supplement.
Yeah.
There was one company in the world that could create a kilo at a time.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So to be and have been part of that from day zero and to have experienced that hands-on and being right in the thick of it every day was an extraordinary experience. And there are many twists and turns in the story which I can share with you. But if I fast forward to where we are now with creatine, it is one of the most researched compound molecules for sport in the world.
For sure. Yeah, I'm always telling people, I mean, there's thousands of papers at this point.
There are, yeah. And it's got a lot of research behind it. There's more discoveries being made right now for other applications for creatine that go far beyond sport, like very far beyond sport. That's why I've come back, is not to do it in sport, but it's to bring it to the mainstream and to women, to the people that are on a longevity journey, 50, 60, 70 plus.
Sure.
People that have problems and issues with memory and cognition and brain health, bone health, weight management, because when you lose a lot of weight quickly on a weight management program, which you can do today with these new technologies like Ozempic, GLP-1, it causes tremendous muscle waste problems as well. You lose so much muscle mass.
Yeah.
You've got to get that muscle mass back, and creatine protein combination is very, very powerful. To go back to 92, it was unknown. We did a lot of things on trust. We introduced athletes to creatine 90 days before the Olympic Games began. So you imagine this, you're talking to athletes that had never heard of creatine 90 days before the Olympics and convincing them to start to take something that was completely unknown, they'd never heard of.
Yeah.
That in itself is a risk for the athlete.
For sure. Amazing.
It really is. Yeah. But they did. And we were very lucky, and we got the evidence that we needed from the Sports Council in the UK and the British Olympic Association. They both agreed that the product was a natural product because it's found in food.
Right.
It's not a steroid. It's not a drug. It's found naturally occurring in the body.
Yeah, it's not going to manipulate your hormones.
No, it doesn't. It's at the cellular level. It's the mitochondria. It's the ATP, ADP Krebs cycle. And it's optimizing cellular energy production, which is crucial in any sport. And as the research and as the know-how and the understanding has evolved over time, it became quite apparent that it's not just sprint and high intensity where you derive a benefit. So you see rowers using it, and cyclists and marathon runners, and anybody that's even an endurance sport athlete that does a lot of high intensity interval workouts, HIIT training, a lot of high intensity, but they might be doing an endurance sport to compete. Creatine plays a pivotal role because it improves recovery. It gives you it gives you what you need to take on a bigger workload. So your workload increases, the number of reps you can do increases, your recovery is compressed. So once we got that learning, it became apparent that this was for anybody that's doing sport, really.
Yeah.
And it was, and it still is a really big part of my life.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm excited that you stepped back out of the shadows and.
Yeah.
So I was really excited to discover you and see, and this is all amazing. I had all these questions in my mind, but you're really kind of answering them and going in even better places. It's fascinating. So having seen kind of up to now this entire evolution, of the creatine over these decades. And, there's all these different formulations and delivering systems and marketing hype.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the biggest sort of BS that you've seen kind of leak out into the public?
That's a really, really good question. The biggest BS that I've seen leak out. Whew. I have thought about this, and I'm quite an analytical person. I like data, and I like to read, and I have this insatiable curiosity for research. And I'm not sure if there is any BS when it comes to what I've read about creatine. It might have been perceived to be BS a decade ago, but I think a lot of what has been perceived to be BS is starting to get proven out with research. There are things that we know now that aren't necessary. So you don't necessarily have to go on a loading phase of 20 grams a day for 5 days to saturate the cells with creatine.
Right.
That's not necessary. If you take creatine every day, 5 grams a day for a month, and then you continue doing that, you will reach the same level as what you did with 20 grams a day. But I think from a BS perspective, and I've actually changed my point of view on this quite significantly. And I think we may actually be under BSing creatine. No, but I'm very, very serious. I'm using the word BS, but it's not BS. I think we're still both underestimating and not yet fully understanding how to communicate the power, potency, and importance of creatine supplementation cross-generational, so across all age groups.
Yeah.
For a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's the research now is starting to really support this as being a foundational component of your nutrition strategy. Okay, so the absolute foundation, creatine, and then from that, because the creatine is the piece that is ultimately it's generating cellular energy, which we all need.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're getting so much focus these days on mitochondrial health and development and so forth. I guess what I was sort of leaning towards with the BS question really was, because I've been in this stuff for quite a while myself. I've been in, working in the strength field for 37 years this year. So I've kind of watched the pendulum swing back and forth, and things come in and out of popularity. But what I see with creatine, and I understand what you're saying as far as the real research, what I see is just, all these people popping up trying to market a newer, better way to deliver it, or a new additive that makes it somehow more effective. And I feel like most of that ends up being just hype. When they say, oh, monohydrate's not the best, there's a better version, or it's better if you take it as a gummy. You know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that just becomes marketing hype. Not that a gummy is a bad thing, but I mean, everybody's trying to find a way to talk people into thinking that their method is better, right? Just so they can sell that product. And usually along with that new version, the price goes way up, right? And so I'm always about simplicity and keeping things, safe and efficient and effective. And then again, if you can deliver it less expensively these days, that's also a good thing.
No, I mean, I think that's a good point that you've touched on when it comes to different delivery forms and how you market the product. And I can look at this from both sides of the fence because I'm a brand builder. I'm a born marketeer. I love the whole world of marketing and creating stories that connect with people's hearts and minds. That's what marketing is. It's the art of connecting a story with somebody that resonates with them, that has context that's relevant to them, and they can imagine themselves being a participant in that story around a product.
For sure.
I live in this world. So I understand, because we're doing the same thing ourselves. We're also on the cusp of making quite a significant breakthrough with creatine that nobody's been able to do for the last 30-something years, and many have tried. So I understand marketing and brand, and I'm never one to kind of say, you have to be able. We live in a world of brands and marketing.
Sure.
And the USA is the home of marketing and brand, and some of the biggest brands on the planet.
For sure.
But it really is.
Yeah.
And I'm a real believer that the place where creatine has historically played really strong is the world that you and I play in.
Right.
Elite, endurance, gym, weekend warrior, wanting to feel great when you go and do a workout in the morning and see the results. That's where creatine plays strong and is one of the biggest supplements in the world now. You know, it's got a huge acceptance and uptake in that world. But when you look at the numbers globally, there are only about 30 million people a day taking creatine, 30 globally. It's between 27 and 30 million people a day are taking creatine. And we have a population of close to, it's into the 7 billions now, heading towards 8. And when you think about the world outside of where creatine plays strong, where powder's great, scooping's great, all of that is just awesome. It's, drop it in your smoothie, mix it up. Even some people are dry powdering today. They're just...
That's what I do. I dry scoop it.
Yeah, dry scooping.
Yeah.
But if you look at where the biggest needs are for creatine,
yeah,
my mum, my friends who are in their 60s now and 70s, people that are not historically even users of powder, they just want it super convenient.
For sure.
To get across the chasm, to move beyond this 30 million, you have to really look at what's needed through a fundamentally different lens. You have to make it convenient. You have to make it highly accessible, available everywhere. It has to taste amazing.
Right, palatable for sure.
It has to taste unbelievable. Otherwise, you can't get across the chasm into big box grocery, 7-Eleven, available everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned it because, I've been dry scooping for years, right? And the reason why I chose to do it that way is because, as you know, it especially in the early days, it doesn't really dissolve great. It'll end up sinking, and you got to keep stirring, right, and all that. I just didn't want to waste my time, so I just feel like I throw it in there, I take a sip of whatever I want to sip, and it's gone in a second. But when I try to sell that idea to people, they all think it's horrible, and nobody else. Like I tell, just throw it in your mouth. It's like, and nobody wants to try it. Nobody wants to do it. Even though we know it doesn't really have a flavor, but I understand, right?
Yeah, but the creatine today, there is super soluble creatine. There's 200 mesh. I've been told there's even 400 mesh coming out. It'll just be so lightweight. It'll, if you try scooping it, it'll just float off into the air. It's going to be so light. But people ask me on a very frequent basis, how should we use creatine, Steve? These are people that are 50s, 60s, 70s. They've never used it in their lives. How should we use it? So, my normal basic recommendation is, I always say to them, I'm creatine brand agnostic. I'm not here to sell a creatine product or brand. You've got to find a brand that sells creatine, lots of them out there, that you trust. You buy from who you trust. You buy on trust, reputation, efficacy. You've got to, third-party tested. You've just got to, just ask yourself these questions and go find that company. And then they say to me, well, how can we use it? And this is the piece that I find really interesting about creatine. Or they ask me, how do you use it? And every day, religiously, I make a dish of oatmeal, porridge, as we call it in England, but oatmeal. I mix it up, leave it to stand for a while. And then right before I'm going to eat it, I get a 3 or 5 gram scoop of creatine, mix it in and eat it. I do that every day. Every day I add creatine to a habit that I already have. I'm not creating a new habit. I'm augmenting an existing habit.
Yeah.
You can put it into a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a smoothie, soup, yogurt, pudding. You can add it to all these things.
Yeah, I think Dr. Kandow said that he puts it in his yogurt every morning.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I just say to people, find a way that works for you. Find a brand that has the right price point that you trust, that's reliable. And that's it. You're away. That's it.
Flashing back for a moment to Ergomax, right?
Yes.
I don't see like effervescent forms of creatine anywhere these days.
No.
And I wonder why that is. Like, why isn't, I mean, people are putting, the biggest thing I see now is these gummies, right? Everybody's coming out with a gummy. But to me, the effervescent idea made sense. Like when I encountered it way back when, I wonder why nobody's choosing that delivery system now.
Do you know, I've asked myself all of these questions over the years, and I actually have been asked this question by people, and one, I don't know. I don't know why there hasn't been more innovation with creatine form factor and delivering it in different forms. I've got my thoughts, and they're quite provocative. And I feel when I really stepped back into the world of creatine again, I did come back out of the shadows. I've been working in technology and doing all sorts of cool things, entrepreneur in residence at a university in Sweden, like really interesting journey. But when I came back, I was really underwhelmed by what I saw when we started to do the real new research that we needed to put together around creatine to even see where the opportunity is. I was underwhelmed at the innovation, at the way creatine is marketed. It underwhelmed me.
Yeah.
And that underwhelming led to, wow, there's a lot that needs to be done here. And somebody said to me, it hasn't happened because you walked away and went and did something else.
Well, that's a nice compliment.
It is. And I used to take comments like that with a pinch of salt, thinking that people were just trying to kind of boost my ego. But I've thought about that, and it's like I'm the visionary. I'm the guy that really gripped it and had the vision to really bring it to the world. I never expected creatine to be where it is 30 years later, but it's good because the big innovation with creatine is still yet to happen.
Right?
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Big innovation hasn't yet happened. And it's coming because the research now, and people like Dr. Kandau, Dr. Scott Forbes are pushing out that research into these new places because they know. And it's the research that is going to drive the innovation curve of creatine.
Yeah, I have to say that in my own population, I own a small personal training studio. We do one, and we have a broad array of clients of all ages and abilities, but we do have a lot of 50 plus.
Yeah.
And our oldest client right now is 92 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, it's awesome. And
it is awesome.
I'm always trying to get him to add creatine, among other things. There's certain things I struggle. And, I literally had a conversation with him this week because he struggles with the protein, getting enough, on a daily basis. And, I finally just said, what is the downside, to you trying to meet these needs? And, he finally told the truth, and said, well, I have a routine, right? And I don't want to break out of my routine, right? Like, it's just like everything's a routine. And so what you said about the porridge, I think is going to be an easy sell for me to be able to say, don't do anything different. Just add it to your existing thing. Like whatever breakfast is, right? Don't think of it as a new, totally different routine. It's like, as Dr. Kandau said, it's like sprinkles on the cake, right? So like, maybe I can get him to add it to his tea or his coffee or porridge, right?
What is the gentleman's name?
His name is Warren, and he's a doctor. He was a virologist. He's a fascinating guy. Yeah. And he came to us at the ripe young age of 89.
Fantastic.
Having never done strength training in his whole life, and now he's with us. He's about to be 92, and he's
absolutely fantastic.
He's made progress, but he sort of pushes back a lot on things like creatine or protein. And I know that he will see a benefit if he does just make some small changes.
Yeah, and it's a really this is a topic that I love to talk about. There are two topics that have really excited me about creatine. One is the benefits of creatine as you're aging, 50 plus, 60 plus, 70 plus. It's profound. It's very different to when you're in your 20s and 30s doing it as an elite sport person. It's a very different impact on the way you feel when you do it at a different life stage. And then women's health is the other big emerging space where creatine is starting to show that there are some significant benefits to be derived if you're a woman with many different health needs that they have, creatine can bring significant benefits. But for Warren, and this is a message for you, Warren, just like Liam said, don't create a new habit, add it to something, integrate it into something you're already doing. Make it easy for yourself, because I can promise you that if you take 5 grams a day, even 10 grams a day, as somebody in their 90s, after a month, 6 weeks, you will feel the difference. Cognition, recovery, you'll be generating a little more cellular energy that will just give you that little bit more, I don't feel as tired in the afternoon.
Right.
And please experience that. Relay to Liam how you're feeling as you go through that process. And then Liam will communicate that back to me.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So it's fascinating when you think about it, though, Liam, that the big breakthroughs with creatine are yet to happen. We've only seen one big breakthrough so far, the research paper in 92.
Right.
It's brought it to where it is today. The research is now emerging that's going to lead to the next really big breakthrough, okay? And that is what's going to take it across into something that resembles the more mainstream consumer, the more mainstream person, your neighbor, your mum, your friends.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't meant to happen until now. Maybe it's part of the process. It's been a 30-year journey for the scientists like Dr. Kandau and a small group of others that are conducting this research. There's a very special group that have come together right now of scientists.
Yeah, he had. I don't mean to interrupt. He had mentioned a woman. I believe Stacey Ellery, or
in Australia.
Yeah, and working with pregnancy. Yeah, that's fascinating to me. Area. It all makes sense when you hear it, right? But you don't necessarily go there.
Yeah,
and the cognition, obviously, is a huge component. Again, elder populations and
exactly.
Most of what I do in my life now for my training, my nutrition, for at least 10 years now has been sort of hoping to preserve my brain health, right?
Yes.
And like I'm always thinking about it, the choices I'm making with my food, everything.
Yes.
I don't want to be one of those people. I'm actually going to be 63 this year, so I'm trying.
You're a year younger than me.
Yeah, so I'm trying not to be one of those people who struggles with those things. And my whole package is sort of aimed at not just being able to move, but have my cognition stay intact as long as possible.
And I just want to talk for another minute or so about why I think we're in the second golden age of creatine research.
Sure.
And you see this. There are patterns in life and moments. What we're seeing today are a group of scientists that are sharing information through the internet, that are collaborating on studies, that are meeting up at conferences and seminars, that are sharing best practice, highly motivated, passionate, they live creatine. And we've got this group that they all know each other. And it sometimes needs that in life. It's like with AI. Why? We've known about AI technology for a long time. Why all of a sudden is there this big explosion in AI? Because a group of people all over the world have come together, and AI has gone to a level where it probably could have been 10 years ago. But it becomes a mindset. It becomes a moment. And we're at that moment now. Amazing research, amazing people, the people that are conducting the research, incredible. And then there's an entity called Creatine for Health. It's a platform that brings the science together, brings the scientists together physically for 4 days, once a year. They talk about their latest research. So it's created that second golden age moment.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to lead to this new understanding. It's leading already to the new understanding of what's possible. And for people like you and me that have been there right from the beginning, 93, Liam, to have started taking creatine, in terms of how many people in the world in 93 were taking creatine, It was hundreds, a few hundred.
Yeah, I never stopped to think about it.
You're in that first few hundred.
Yeah, wow, it's crazy.
You've been there. 93 was when it launched in the US with Anthony Almada and the team at AAS and Bill Phillips. So
Yeah, yeah,
you've been there since it really became available in the USA
yeah,
at the beginning, basically.
for sure. Yeah, because it's funny because I was tapped into those guys, right?
Yeah,
They used to produce a magazine, right? Muscle Media 2000, right? And
amazing.
and yeah, and I was following Bill Phillips from his early days, because he used to produce a thing about about steroids, sort of on the down, right? So yeah, I was always paying attention to that stuff. And so when they came, and one of the things about them, rightly or wrongly, they presented themselves as a place where they were trying to tell the truth, right? And so that made me pay more attention to what things they had to say and be more likely to listen when they recommended things, right? So, when they started talking about creatine, I was intrigued. Obviously, I was like yourself. I was much younger and still being more sport oriented and wanting to perform. Yeah, so I was like, hey, I'll try it. And again, it wasn't illegal. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't messing around. I didn't have to inject anything. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, I'm definitely willing to explore.
I was back in Europe building my nutrition company, Maxim, which was, more into energy bars and drinks and things that were more for a, endurance sport athlete. And I remember over in Europe looking at what was happening in the US, just in awe. The marketing, the growth in the US, it was just like, wow, creatine's exploding in the US market.
Yeah.
And it never really did have an explosion moment in Europe, even though it began in the UK. The explosion in terms of marketing and consumer adoption and sport adoption actually happened in the USA.
Yeah.
That's where the real, and it was, Muscle Media 2000. And we used to, eventually those magazines would find their way across the Atlantic.
Sure.
And I used to look through them and see all these creatine ads and thinking, this marketing's on a whole different level. It's like, it's unbelievable.
They definitely were good at it.
Yeah.
So based on having been around and now sort of emerging, is there anything that's been surprising to you? That's been uncovered about these benefits from studying creatine? Like anything that really caught you by surprise as far as what it could do that hadn't been thought of?
Yeah, and I'll go back to 93, actually. There were two things in 93 that one of them was filing the first creatine patent after the research paper had come out. So I filed the creatine patent in 93, and the creatine patent I filed in 93, which still gets cited by companies that are filing creatine patents today. The one in 93 referenced dementia, Alzheimer's, cognition in 93.
Wow.
But there was no research to support that. But Roger Harris knew. He knew what was possible with creatine at the cellular level, mitochondria, and that is in the original patent. So even back all those years, there was this awareness that there were applications for creatine beyond sport.
Yeah, amazing.
It is quite amazing. And, I share this patent. I've got all the screenshots now. And when I do talks, I share all these screenshots and people are going, wow, we just never knew that you guys were thinking like this back in 93. But Roger Harris in particular was a visionary. He was a visionary. He was the kind of guy that if he'd have been a tech guy, he'd have built a company like Apple or Microsoft. He was that kind of a visionary. But he wasn't a tech guy. He was a nutrition guy. He was a human performance scientist.
Yeah.
And he made a comment to me in 93 that has stuck with me. And I have shared it recently with people. And I remember I was with Roger. We were in the car. We were driving somewhere. And I'm driving. He sat next to me. And we were just chit-chatting away. And he made this comment. And I remember him saying it. One day, everybody will be taking creatine.
Yeah.
He knew what the potential benefits of it were far into the future. Getting there, as we see with technology and we see with electrification of vehicles or new forms of energy or new space rockets, it takes decades, not necessarily to figure it out, but for the right group of people to come together that have the wherewithal and the motivation and the drive to figure it out. So Roger's comment and the patent both 93. And to your second point, what are you seeing today that surprises you? And it actually excites me to the point where I say to myself, this is why we're doing it. This is why I've come back. It's around women's health, pregnancy, menopause, postmenopause, all of these things that are so challenging, so challenging for women. If creatine can make a positive contribution to the health of hundreds of women, hundreds of millions of women, maybe several hundred million, then that would be for me like a wow, because that's my mum, it's my wife, it's my daughter Rachel, who's recovering from Hashimoto's, metabolic health, real metabolic health challenges. It's like, wow, that's a pretty cool thing to do. So women's health, and then where creatine can bring benefit in women's health is a very exciting place to be at the moment.
Yeah.
Cognition, which we knew about, but now the research is supporting cognition, which includes sleep deprivation. Unbelievable the numbers of people that struggle with sleep deprivation. And even when they're on treatment for sleep, they still aren't getting enough hours and they're deprived of sleep.
Yeah.
Creatine can play a role in helping people that are sleep deprived. So either from your work, you're a student cramming for an exam, or you just have sleep apnea, you're struggling to sleep. That in and of itself is a huge thing that creatine can potentially bring benefits to people that have got challenges around their sleep and sleep deprivation. There's research emerging that's showing that there could be benefits with people both suffering from cancer, but then in remission or recovering. Like, wow, these are big spaces.
Yeah.
They are massive. It's just like, crikey, this gets really exciting. This is why it is the second golden age that's going to take creatine to a different place.
I wonder sometimes, about the fact, because one of the things that I see in my practice, is that people struggle to get their protein needs met as well.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we know that creatine, exists in these high quality protein foods. And so now we, my take on it is that they're not only not getting enough quality protein foods, it makes even more sense that that creatine could be a benefit, right? Because they're not getting it from food, because they're not meeting those basic needs. They're not eating seafood, and that, I think that's another reason why they're going to notice this giant improvement when they can supplement creatine so easily. And honestly, it's easier to supplement creatine than to eat, 3 more chicken breasts or whatever, because I understand those challenges for some. But talking to Dr. Kandau, one of my takeaways from that conversation was that he's recommending, and I'm wondering if you concur, that people, we always did the 3 to 5 grams a day sort of thing, but he's sort of recommending like higher doses spread out. And so just from that conversation with him, which was really just a couple of weeks ago, I've already doubled my dose. Like now I'm taking 10 grams a day. I don't see why it would hurt me any, so I'm just spreading it out, and I'm wondering about your take on that.
Yeah, and I met Darren in person back in mid-February at a conference, and I saw his talk. He presented his latest research and the latest thinking around creatine. Both himself and Dr. Scott Forbes was on it. So it was Darren gave his talk, Scott went on after him, and it was just like a masterclass. It was like watching 2 Jedi masters or Yodas. It was like Yoda 1 and Yoda 2. And it was like, if you'd have been there, it was like, okay, I know exactly where creatine is now. I know exactly where it's going. And I can see the research. And I can see these new thinkings around dosing protocols. And I came back from this conference, which was on the west coast of the US, came back to Europe, thought about what Darren had spoken about with dosing protocol. And then I upped my dose to 10 grams a day. So I'm just on this basic 3 to 5 every day, all day, every day, don't deviate from it, 3 to 5.
Yeah.
And then I up to 10. And I did that for 10 days. And then I thought, okay, I need to use this very carefully because there's a noticeable difference. Noticeable difference. I don't want to feel like this all the time because I don't want my new normal to be like, because once you get a new normal, it's like, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy with being on 3 to 5.
Yeah.
But I now know that if I've got to go on a business trip, or I'm going to go on a long multi-day hike, or I'm going to be putting in long hours across multiple time zones, going to bed at maybe 2 in the morning and getting up again at 6 or 7, which is what's happening right now. I know that if I up to 10, they're just 10 grams a day, it is going to really, really help me.
Sure.
It is an absolute, from my perspective, I'm one person, but I'm now recommending this to others that are also giving us anecdotal feedback. 10 grams a day, if you're using 3 to 5 and then you go up to 10, you notice a difference.
Yeah.
Especially memory, cognition, sharpness. Oh, the sharpness is incredible. I feel sharp on 3 to 5. On 10, it's like, this is quite incredible. And I am planning on doing a test with 20 grams a day this year. I'm not the kind of person that's like, I try with 10 and then a week later I try with 20. I just kind of pace things and get back to my normal on 10, on 3 to 5. Let that just settle for a few months. And then I'm going to try 20. But I'm going to try 20 when I'm actually putting significant demands on my body.
Yeah, he had mentioned that as well. Like he said, he has bumped his up to kind of like 10 as his norm.
Yes.
And then he would maybe go up to at least 15 or so, like in stressful situations as you were discussing. And since that conversation with him, I bumped mine up to 10.
Yep.
And I, like you, I've been taking, 5 grams with my breakfast like every single day for quite some time. And I usually 90% of the time I have a smoothie that I make at home. And as I said, I dry scoop. So I just throw a scoop to drink it down with my smoothie and it's done. But now I'm taking another dose later in the day, or maybe after my workout, or something else. And I definitely feel like it's beneficial. So I don't know that I would go much beyond that for now. But I feel like I'm going to try to stick with like the 10 as like my standard for a while.
Yeah, and another thing that the research, or some of the published research is kind of alluding to, is that as you age, you're in your 60s, you're in your 70s, you're in your 80s, taking 10 grams a day as a 70-year-old, or 10, 15 a day as an 80-year-old, is probably going to be better than taking 3 to 5. So as you age, you up the dose, because you're losing about 1% a year of your body's ability to produce cellular energy from the mitochondria. They're just not, it's just the aging process. And the other piece that is really important in terms of what Dr. Kandau is recommending is to get the creatine across the blood-brain barrier, you need to up the dose.
Mm.
If you're really looking to feel those improvements in memory, lack of mental tiredness, clarity, just feeling less brain fog, you've got not all the creatine can get through the blood-brain barrier. So you're looking at 10 plus a day for those really incredible cognitive benefits to really kick in.
Yeah.
And if you use that wisely, like I know that the golfer that won the Open last weekend, McIlroy, he's a 20 grams a day guy, 10 in the morning, 10 later in the day. He's a really hardcore fitness guy, McIlroy. But he talks about creatine. He's publicly spoken about it, and he's on a 20 gram a day protocol.
Wow.
2 times 10. And he notices a very real difference, sharpness. Golf is an explosive sport. When you're teeing off,
sure,
massive muscle groups that are being used, the explosive hit. So it's a classic. He's a classic from a sport perspective, but he also talks about the cognitive benefits as a golfer. It's a real game of mental sharpness, and he who remains mentally strong, like in tennis, is probably going to win. So I concur with Dr. Kandau that 3 to 5 is better than nothing. 3 to 5 is actually really good. 10 works. I would imagine that 20, as I'm aging, may end up becoming my normal, but I don't want to go there too quickly. It's like I've got to kind of you have a little bit more wisdom as you age. It's like, okay, maybe when I'm 70, my baseline will be 10 a day. And then when I'm 80, it'll be 20 a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to start it too early because, you've.
But, honestly, again, especially using your idea of, not, of just adding it to an existing habit, I just feel like the barrier to creatine with all these described benefits is much lower, like I said, than like, I understand why people struggle sometimes with the protein, right? Like they just, for various reasons. But I mean, but taking creatine is so easy. You know what I mean? Like, again, I don't have to eat more chicken or try to,
No.
yeah, I mean, literally just this tiny scoop of powder, put it where you want it. It seems like it should be a no brainer, and I'm with you. Like, as from our group, TNT, our goal is, that everyone in the world should be doing strength training, right? We think it's the most important exercise.
Yeah.
And so, and our kind of mantra is, right, like, we don't care where you do it, who you do it with, how you do it, but you should be doing it all the time.
Yeah.
It should be part of your life on a regular basis. And again, because our lens is the safe, efficient, it doesn't take a lot of time. We recommend our clients, 2 30-minute sessions a week. It's 1 hour out of your 168 hours a week.
Yeah.
The barrier is pretty low, and it has a huge impact on quality of life. So here you have a supplement that's much easier to do than even 30 minutes of strength training. We're talking like two seconds of application. Toss it in something and you're on your way.
It's a really good point that you're raising here, and I think we mustn't lose sight of the fact that, especially as you're aging, and I'm experiencing this, and to the point that you've just made, it's very, very, very difficult to increase lean muscle mass when you're in your 60s. It's like it's really hard. Maintaining lean muscle mass in your 60s is hard. Increasing it and improve and growing, it takes a lot more effort than it did in your 20s and 30s. And to get the real benefit from creatine when it comes to muscle health, strength, power, offsetting sarcopenia and muscle atrophy, you have to do some physical exercise, some resistance exercise.
Yeah.
And like you said, it doesn't matter what you do, whether it's with bands, whether it's with kettlebells, 2 dumbbells that you've got at home, a weight vest. Weight vests are super convenient, rocking, whatever it is, do something that is range of motion, mobility with resistance forever.
Yeah. So kind of as you had said earlier about being sort of brand agnostic with creatine, that's a term we use a lot. We tell people that we're tool agnostic when it comes to strength training, right?
Yeah.
We have an amazing studio that's very well equipped, and we literally have pretty much everything. But we have guys who, use bands. We do virtual training, so we train people over the internet, and we have guys that train entirely with bands, as an example, and they're as strong as anyone else.
Yeah.
The tool doesn't matter. Your muscles don't know where the resistance comes from.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We don't care whether you have Nautilus machines or you have a sandbag or a box of rocks. But you got to do it, like you said. And it isn't. So the tool is irrelevant as long as you're doing it safely and effectively.
Exactly. And this tool agnostic is actually really important. It's very easy for people to think, I've got to go to the local, wherever I go to buy, I've got to go and buy weights and kettlebells and this, that, and the other. And initially you don't.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is needed is more tool agnostic content that can be what you would call an on-ramp to bring people into this world.
Yeah.
It's like, we lived in Sweden for a while, and at home, I wasn't a member of a gym, and at home, we had no weights. I had bands. I'm a real believer in bands, especially when I'm traveling, just bands go in my bag, and that's it. I'm just bands and bands.
Yeah, no, we love them as well.
Love them. But I used to go down to the beach in the morning, so we lived quite close to the water. And down by the beach, I found rocks and big pieces of wood. And eventually I made something that resembled Fred Flintstone's gym. I used to have to hide all these things because the shapes of them were so perfect that I ended up having to hide them amongst bushes and things that were close to the beach, so that every morning, or the mornings that I went down there, people would see me going into these bushes thinking, what is that guy doing? And I'd come out with rocks and pieces of wood, carry all this stuff down to the waterfront, do a workout like Fred Flintstone with all this nature using just things that are around. And honestly, I look pretty good. No gym membership, no weights at home, just some bands. Everything was just natural elements that I was using.
Yeah, that's great.
Chunks of granite, chunks of rock, big pieces of driftwood. like a nutcase on the beach, but it works, you know?
Yeah, it's funny. We love bands. I feel like they're probably the most universally tool. They're limited only by your imagination.
Yes, they are.
You can pack them, like you said. They don't weigh a lot. They're easy to stow. You can't drop them on your foot and hurt yourself. There's a million reasons, and you can replicate almost any exercise you can think of. And the levels of resistance these days that you can produce is very high. You can really produce some high levels of force. There's a few different types. We often with our virtual clients, we'll like drop ship them directly to the person. Like the person goes, oh, I want to work with you guys, but I'm over here. I said, great. We'll just send you the bands and teach you how to use them, and bam, you have a gym instantly. At your fingertips. And then we have a coach right there on Zoom, just literally putting them through a live workout.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
So we work with people all over. We started during the pandemic. So I had clients in Ireland and Hawaii and, the East Coast of the United States. And again, it's only the timing that's, slightly challenging. But bands are awesome. We have all types of bands here in the studio. But we have everything else too. So I think that's a great take. As a matter of fact, it's making me think, because I have a blog that I write on regularly, and I think that'll be my next article, sort of how to be tool agnostic.
Yeah.
So that people can recognize that they can use whatever they can and still get great benefits from it.
Yeah, because ultimately what we're all trying to do that are in this industry, in this world, and we love it so much. And I meet so many people that are part of the world of performance nutrition, or they're gym owners, or they have a High Rocks franchise for their whole country, or they've got a CrossFit gym or whatever. The passion, it just attracts passionate people. It's fantastic. Like seriously,
sure,
really engaged in what they do and very passionate. And I think anything we can do to bring more people into this world and introduce them to what's possible, open their minds to what they can do regardless of their age, is such a good thing to wake up in the morning and know that I'm going to probably have a conversation today with somebody and open their mind to a world of possibilities that they've never conceptualized.
Yeah.
And I talk about we all rise together. We're trying to increase the numbers of people that not so much focused on longevity, but focused on aging in a healthy way. So health span. I just want to feel good for as long as possible. And that final piece that for some people is the last 20 years of their life, I want that to be like 20 days, maybe 20 months. I want to have that youthful vitality and that vigor and that flexibility and that range of motion and that ability to put my bag in the overhead on a plane, be a great grandfather, still playing with my kids with Lego on my knees. The longer that we can make that possible for people, the better their quality of life, the less dependent you become on medical interventions, because you just let yourself go because of circumstances. And as you mentioned, Liam, an hour a week of resistance.
Yeah.
An hour a week, exercise snacking, 10 minutes, 5 times a week, or 6 times a week, 10 minutes, 6 times in a week. It's all it takes.
I know, it's incredible.
And most people, when you say that to them, they're going, it can't be true. It's better than nothing.
Right.
And the benefits you will derive from just thinking about it as exercise snacking, just do it in your normal clothes, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Over the space of a day, you've done 30 minutes and you're doing that 5 days a week.
It's funny that you're using that term, because I have another friend or acquaintance who uses that exact same term, like exercise snacking. Yeah. Kind of little bits here and there. And and that's definitely something that can work. People, one of the things that we teach our clients when they come here is that we have that 30 minutes, but and for many initially they feel like that can't possibly be enough. But what they learn quickly that not only is it more than enough, but even if they show up late, sometimes whatever, they're still going to get an awesome workout in 15 minutes and 20 minutes. It doesn't matter because we know how to use that time effectively.
Yeah.
And many of our clients come to embrace that efficiency to the point where they work out as hard as they can. And even though the schedule says 30 minutes, after 20 minutes, they go, you know what? I'm done. You know what I mean? Like that was great. And I'm on my way. And now I have more time to do this other thing.
Yes.
And they're perfectly satisfied. They realize, wow, I had everything I needed and wanted from today. And it happened even faster,
Yeah. And that's another really good point. And I'm a real proponent now of exercise snacking. Pretty much my exercise now is 3 times 10 minutes or 4 times 10 or 3 times 20 but I'm doing something every day now. Every day I just have these moments where I'm gone for 10 minutes, I'm gone for 20 minutes, and I'm doing all resistance and I intersperse that with some really intense, high intensity intervals. And like you said 10 minutes ago, when you're doing exercise, your body isn't. If I do sprinting for high intensity intervals, or I'm doing plyometric jumps onto a box, my body doesn't say, "Oh, this is plyometric jumps on a box, which is HIIT."
Yeah.
It just knows that you're working the heart really hard,
Yeah.
and you're working a number of muscles to absolute fatigue. And the whole concept of exercise snacking, coupled with tool agnostic, is really powerful. If you can write about that and design that into your program, just those 2 pieces, exercise snacking, tool agnostic, is incredible. And what I found with exercise snacking is that if I'm doing a 10-minute exercise snack, the quality is off the charts. It's like a super setting. Just like, wow, unbelievable.
Yeah.
You go into fatigue. It's like, 10 minutes. But that whole 10 minutes, mega quality. Mega quality. There's no, I'm doing this for an hour and the last 30 minutes is just like going through the motions.
For sure.
Because you can't be at that quality and intensity for more than maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you end up having a better quality workout, which means the results that you see are really quite significant from 10 minutes. It's like, and these things are quite new to me, actually. This has been a big shift for me.
Okay.
To move away from being a 20 hours a week endurance sport guy. Even in my 50s and 60s, during the pandemic, I was doing 30 hours a week of cycling, 30.
Wow. So are you familiar with like some of the work, coming out of like the McMasters in Canada, like the 1-minute workout, like Martin Jabala and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes,
we use a lot of, again, I've been a proponent of this brief cardio since the 80s, 1980s. I was telling people back then, because people would come into the gym, they'd get on the Stairmaster. Remember, there used to be the Stairmaster. They'd ride that thing for like 2 hours in the gym. And I would come in and I'd say, you could go as hard as you can for 10 minutes. Because that was all I did. I did 10 minutes as hard as I could, 5 days a week.
Yep.
And people thought, well, you don't do cardio, right? You're not doing anything. How could you possibly be getting anything out of it? Then when they tested my VO2 max, it was like 58.
Yeah, off the charts.
Yeah, and I was never doing more than 10 minutes at a time as hard as I could. And everybody thought I was crazy. And I've been telling people this for decades, right? Before there was a name, nobody called it high intensity interval training back then. I said, look, do your strength training, get on a piece of cardio equipment, I don't care which one, and go as hard as you can for 10 minutes at the end of the workout, just as hard as you can, huffing and puffing. And then you're done, and they just were like, nope, that can't possibly work.
It's fascinating. I'm really loving this part of the conversation because the research is there to support that now. The proof points are there from a lot of people that have, like me, have grown and that have learned, that have taught themselves, really. They've found the research, they've tried things out. And I would have been a 10-minute exercise snack naysayer 2 years ago. So it's in the last 2 years for me that I've really embraced this, and it works. It fits with the lifestyle that I want to have now in my 60s, moving into my 70s. I think, and I feel that I'm in better shape now than I was in my 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Because of the volume has massively reduced. The intensity has just gone to a whole different level.
Yeah. And so you have the benefit with so much less wear and tear.
Yeah.
And so much less requirement on your recovery ability,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't beat it.
No.
My, that's one of my mantras, and with all forms of exercise, is that the quality always wins over the quantity.
Absolutely, Liam.
Every time, and it's just it's a tough battle to sell it. Interestingly,
it is.
And again, especially we know, as I think I mentioned, runners, for example, they're kind of like drug addicts. You know what I mean? Like all they can think of is, how can I find a way to run more? You know what I mean? And that's all they can think of. We sadly had a guy come to us not too long ago. It's kind of funny, actually. He came to us because he was a runner and he was injured, riddled with injuries, as runners often are. And his doctor had said, you need to do strength training.
Yeah.
He found us. He did the strength training. He got very strong. He took a break from the running while he was doing it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he's like, you know what? I feel great. I'm going to go back to running. And he dumped the strength training. He just gave it up. And he's like, well, now I'm fixed. I can run again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, you're missing the whole point, right? And now he left. He doesn't train with us anymore. He's back to running. And I know for a fact he's going to break down.
Yeah, he will.
And he's going to have to come back. You know what I mean? And he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad. Yeah. So the people that do get it realize, wow, I can run less. I can add this in.
Yeah.
My business partner runs 10K once a week. And he does it as hard as he can. And he loves it, but he only does it once a week. And he competes in, have you familiar with Spartan races?
Oh yeah.
So he loves the Spartan races, and he comes in the top 20 or 30% every single time.
Wow.
And he only runs once a week. And everybody, again, if you talk to a normal runner, they're like, well, that can't possibly work, right? Like,
I know.
Yeah.
I was one of those people. Up until quite recently, I was just nudging and trying to get to 50 miles a week every week.
Yeah.
I was addicted to it. Up last year, 2024.
Yeah.
I was just like, I would get like stressed if I had a whole day of meetings and I couldn't get out to get that hour running.
Right.
But I had injuries. I had issues. My posture was messed up. I had no muscle, like trained off thin. I didn't even look. I didn't even feel healthy.
I'm sure.
It's like, why am I doing this? And then it was last December. I haven't run since last December 24. I finally got it into my head that there is now a different way.
Yeah.
Exercise snacking, tool agnostic, whatever I do now is contributing to what we call ageless vitality.
I like it.
This youthful vitality, this feeling strong, mobile, flexible, good strong VO2 max, good grip strength for as long as possible. That's all I'm interested in. Everything else is just like, I don't need to do that. I can do all these other things with my time now.
Yeah. I like the ageless vitality idea. That's a good tag.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's ours, but we need more people to use these tags and these words that shift the narrative. It is like having to create a new language to help shift people's minds. It becomes a mind shift. It's easier with new people that are coming in for the first time. It's
absolutely. Yeah, the less they know, the better it is. Yeah.
People like you and I, well, you're ahead of the curve. You've been ahead of the curve for a long time. But for people like me, hardcore endurance sport, if I went out on a bike ride and it wasn't at least 3 hours, preferably 4, there's no point in going out.
Yeah.
Well, why go out for 2 hours? What's the point in a 2-hour ride? It's just worthless.
It's so funny that you say that, because I had another colleague who was a trainer, and he would plan a workout into his week schedule, and then something would interfere, and he'd had planned 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Into his schedule, and something would have gotten in the way, and he would have missed maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and he would be like irate. My whole workout is ruined, right? And I was like, oh my God, you still have like an hour to go. Like you can get so much stuff. And he would be like, no, it's ruined, right? I can't burn like 1,000 calories and have this. It was crazy. And he would literally feel like he had
Yeah.
wasted his time
Yeah.
because someone stole like 5 minutes off of his workout,
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to figure this out,
But I have been that person until very recently, and I understand the mindset of why people that have done endurance sport for many, many years are like that. You just get fixated, and you get like it's a bit like being in a bit of a rut. You're just in a bit of a rut, and you can't think beyond what is your normal. You feel comfortable. You feel amazing. Oh, I'm in my 50s and I can ride 300K, 300 kilometers in my 50s. It's 16 hours on the bike.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's fun. It's funny because I am, I was a football player as well. So I played soccer in college in the United States, and I played like semi-professionally after that. I was trying to, and that was my life. It's funny because I visited the UK in the 80s when I was in college. So I visited over there in the 80s. And while I was there, everyone I would meet, I would be like, let's go play soccer, And they were like shocked back then that there was an American guy who knew how to play soccer. They were like, what? Like they couldn't believe it. It's even, it doesn't seem that long ago to me and to you and I.
No.
But they were like dumbfounded because they were like, wow, he actually knows how to play soccer. And the great thing about the UK is like over here, right? It's baseball, of course, right? Or basketball.
Yes.
But there, I knew that everyone at least knew something about it, right? Like any person I could say, hey, you want to go play some soccer? Okay. They all know how to play a little bit, even if they're not on a team, right? So it was easy to find like a pickup game or something, And so I played as much as I could while I was there. It was really fun. But they were like always confused. Like I didn't know Americans even knew how to do this game, But yeah. Back then, obviously, I was running all the time because I was playing. But having retired from soccer specifically, and as again my emphasis on efficiency, you couldn't pay me to run a marathon. There's like no way I don't want to train for it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm not going to ever be on my deathbed and feel like I should have run a marathon. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to do that to be healthier, to have fun.
I ran a marathon during the pandemic. We mapped the course out. I trained for it, and then it was, okay, I can now do a 36K run. And I remember saying to my daughter, who lives quite close by us here in Antwerp, I'm going to run a marathon on Saturday. She knew I'd been training, and I ran a marathon. It was a very windy day. It was in May of 2003. Was it 2002 or 2000? I can't remember, but it was during the pandemic. I can't remember the year. 2000, I think. I ran this marathon. After the marathon, I suffered terribly in the last 5K. But after the marathon, my feet, the damage I'd done to my feet, 2 years.
Oh my God.
For them to heal up. 2 years.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I didn't run. I just basically went back on the bike after doing this marathon because my body was so beaten up.
Yeah.
So beaten up. And I remember running the full 42K, 26.2 miles, I think it is. And I remember saying to my daughter, who followed me on the bike with water and things, I'm never going to run another marathon. I'm never doing this. I'm never going to do this to my body ever again.
Yeah.
I damaged my body deep damage, neuromuscular, ligaments, tendons, bones, weeks to get over it. And it's like, what the heck?
So let me ask you one more thing. Unfortunately, I have to wind up because I do have a meeting coming up because I'm really enjoying speaking with you. And I'm so glad that you came and spent some time with me today.
It's a real fun conversation.
Do you have plans now to get back into the creatine market as like on the business side of things?
Yes.
That's okay. Cool. Yeah. So
yes, we do. We're developing a technology that will, I talk about creatine 2.0 and people say to me, well, what is creatine 2.0? And we're planning on introducing something that creatine currently can't do, that we're very close to accomplishing this technical challenge that will open up creatine to a much, much, much larger segment of the market.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So yes, we will not have we are going to develop our own product, but it's not going to be the main thing. The main thing that we're doing, we're developing it. We have developed a technology, and that technology will be used by other companies in their products. So we're going to bring this technology to brands that already exist.
Fantastic.
They've already got customers. They're already in market. They've already got their distribution.
Yeah.
And show them a way to grow their business with this technology. It is the game changer.
Nice. That's exciting.
So yes, we are. And it'll be later in the year that we kind of finally say, this is who we are and this is what we're doing. And this is why Steve came back.
Nice. Awesome. Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I wish we could keep hanging out. So hopefully you and I can stay connected after this.
Absolutely, Liam. Yeah.
And I would look forward to it. And I will definitely follow up with you. Really appreciate you coming on today. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you reached out to me. I really am. And it was, I said to Rachel, my daughter, who does all of our content and branding, I said, I'm really looking forward to this podcast with Liam tonight, because it's evening time here. It's been a different conversation for me to have. It's gone back into that world of the sport and endurance and new thinking in terms of exercise snacking and tool agnostic. I love it. It's fun, it's real innovation.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I really appreciate it.
Liam, thanks very much. If you just want to, you've got my contact details. You know who I am on Instagram.
Yeah, I will. I'll be following up soon. Any place else that people can find you besides Instagram? Is that the number one place to?
Yeah, Instagram at Creatine OG is the main place. I'm on LinkedIn, talking a lot about creatine actually, but Instagram is the place where people can message me, follow me, drop me messages. If I get people saying, can I do a WhatsApp call with you? Let's set one up. I'm very approachable. I'm very, very accessible. And honestly, Liam, the next time I'm in the Bay Area, I'm coming to the gym, coming to your gym.
We would love that.
I'm coming.
For sure. Please do.
100%.
Fantastic. We'll look forward to it. I'll get Desmond to come over. We'll crush both of you on the same day. Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great day, Steve.
Thanks so much, Liam. Have a fantastic day.
All right. Cheers. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Truth Not Trends podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us, whatever platform you are on. And also always share these podcasts with a friend. If you want to find out about TNT Strength and training with us live in the studio in Oakland, California, visit our website at www.tntstrength.com. You can also call us right here in the studio, 510-768-5421. If there's a guest you'd love for me to talk to or a topic you want me to dig into, shoot me an email at TAKU@tntstrength.com. That's TAKU@tntstrength.com. And whatever you do, get rid of that stupid blue bow suit. Is that better?
Much better.
All right, cool.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.
Put it where you want it.